Resources Finance Division to order. A quorum is present. Representative Morrison, have you reviewed the minutes?
I have.
Representative Morrison moves approval of the March 21st, 2019 minutes. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Those opposed? Ayes have it. Minutes are approved. Representative Lippert. And as we're getting started, I want to note if there are folks in the audience that are here for House File 359, the flame retardant chemical use, that will be the first bill we bring up at 5 p.m.
No, I haven't.
Representative Lippert.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
I will move House File 1706 be recommended to be referred to the Ways and Means Committee. Representative Lippert, please present your bill.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, members of the committee. House File 1706 deals with soil and water conservation districts. Minnesota Statutes Chapter 103C is the SWCD law. However, duties and obligations for SWCDs are also in various other areas of statute. So this bill provides those statutory cross-references in 103C and incorporates simple text on the range of SWCD services, helping to better articulate what SWCDs do, how they do it, and the legal obligations the state has put upon them as well. And Sheila Vanny is here to say more about this bill, too.
Ms. Vian.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chair, committee members. Sheila Vanny, Assistant Director with the Minnesota Association of Soil and Water Conservation Districts. And I want to thank Representative Lippert for carrying this bill. It really is a very simple bill with just simple recodifications of some of the SWCD obligations that are currently only mentioned elsewhere in statute. For example, Section 1, if you look at the SWCD role with the riparian buffer law and soil erosion, that's 103F. If you look at the Wetland Conservation Act, that's 103G. 103B is local water planning. So it's really just bringing in the references that are currently only in other sections of statute into 103C, the SWCD law, so that if someone goes to 103C, what does an SWCD do? Well, their answer is a little bit clearer. Also kind of timely, section, I believe it's 12. Participating in disaster response efforts. SWCD roles with helping private landowners in particular, but also providing technical assistance to other local government units when there's soil erosion or water quality issues after a disaster like or tornado or a flood event can be really important for the timely reaction to those things. Subdivision 2 just articulates the simple SWCD duties that go along the services, that an SWCD performs to fulfill their obligations. So performing administrative services, providing technical expertise, information and education outreach, facilitating regulatory processes and trying to keep landowners out of regulatory harm's way, administering programs and projects, monitoring and inventorying, and maintaining a modern technology infrastructure. All of those are just pieces of what an SWCD needs in order to fulfill its duties. Mr. Chair and members, I believe that kind of is a short and sweet synopsis of the bill, and I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Any questions for Ms. Viani? Representative Fabian.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Well, just a quick question with regards to the bill itself, and that would, we're pulling everything together. What's actually changing then, if anything is changing with regards to the SWCDs and what their responsibilities are?
Ms. Viani.
Mr. Chair, Representative Fabian, there are no substantive changes to the requirements of SWCDs. There's no additional obligations being put on them in this bill, and there's no obligations being taken away from them.
Representative Fabian.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So the other thing is if these were scattered throughout different sections, to the author of the bill, Representative Lippert, I noticed there's no repealer of any kind in the bill. Is that something that should have been considered?
Representative Lippert or Ms. Viani?
Ms. Vaney, I don't know if you have, I don't have a good sense of whether that would be appropriate or not. I'd turn to some others.
Representative Ms. Viani.
Mr. Chair, Representative Fabian, this is kind of like a copy and paste, if you want to think of it that way. We're not changing anything in 103G, for example. It's just that only in 103G are the SWCD responsibilities specified right now. So we're copying that and putting it into 103C so that someone looking at our enabling law will see, oh, there's a role for SWCDs providing technical expertise for the Wetland Conservation Act, for example.
Are there any other questions? Is there anyone in the audience who would like to testify for or against the bill? Representative Lippert, any closing remarks?
Just ask for your support. Thank you.
I will renew my motion that House File 1706 be recommended to be re-referred to the Ways and Means Committee. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Ayes have it. It is referred. House File 1314. Members, next up we have House File 1314. It was heard in the Water Division and recommended to be re-referred to this division without amendments. Representative Fischer.
I'd like to make that motion, sir.
Representative Fischer moves the adoption of the Water Division report on House File 1314. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, the motion prevails. The report is adopted. I will move that House File 1314 be recommended to be re-referred to the Ways and Means Committee with a recommended re-referral to the Health and Human Services Finance Division. Representative Lippert.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Members, so House File 1314 expands the Department of Health Source Water Protection Program to include rivers and sources of drinking water for private wells. This means that the Source Water Protection Program will expand to include all residents of the state. Specifically, the bill will map our most vulnerable aquifers that are primary sources of private drinking water. It will revise policy and incentive plans to protect vulnerable aquifers. It will target additional groundwater monitoring to assess potential threats to private wells. It will develop plans and pilot real-time water monitoring sites on rivers. And it will improve public information and education about contaminants in drinking water. You have a fiscal note in front of you, and the financial implications of the bill is $1.945 million in fiscal years 2020 and 2021, and $1.294 million in fiscal years 2022 and 23. And with me to testify is Nels Paulson, and Jim Stark is also here.
Mr. Paulson.
Yeah, it's fine.
Mr. Chair, my name is Nels Paulson. I'm the Policy Director at Conservation Minnesota, and I wanted to testify in support of House File 1314, and I wanted to point out that there is bipartisan support not only on the bill but also from the Legislative Water Commission where this bill started, and I want to commend Representative Lippert for bringing it forward. And one piece of the bill that I thought was really important was on the backside. The bill recommends that a report be drafted by November 1st, 2020, and it asks that the Commissioners of Agriculture, the Department of Natural Resources, the Pollution Control Agency, and the Department of Health all work together in putting this report together. And I think it's a good start to help address the private wells and the surface waters that were somewhat overlooked. And I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you.
Any questions for the testifier or Representative Lippert?
I'll ask Jim Stark to come forward as well.
Mr. Stark.
Mr. Chair and members, for the record, my name is Jim Stark. I'm the Director of the Legislative Water Commission. Thank you for hearing this bill today. I think Representative Lippert covered most of the points, so let me just say this. This is one of 13 bills recommended by the Legislative Water Commission. These are bills that are the result of the Commission and stakeholders and their review of existing water-related reports and recommendations from the near past. The bill is about expanding source water protection. It's a beginning to protect our vulnerable private wells and aquifers, as we do for our public water supply systems. In addition, the bill begins a process to protect water intakes in our major rivers that supply us with water. The The safety of our drinking water is one of our most important and critical responsibilities faced by government. The Minnesota Department of Health has delegated authority from the EPA to regulate more than 13,000 public water systems. However, source water protection for our aquifers that supply water to our domestic wells is not managed with the same level of scrutiny. More than 1 million of our residents get their drinking water from private wells. The Minnesota Department of Health Well Code ensures that private wells are constructed properly. However, after these wells are put into service, private well owners have the sole responsibility for their wells and the water from those wells. Approximately 11% of the private wells that have been tested in sensitive areas exceed the drinking water standard for nitrate. The other parts of the bill, I think, have been covered well by Representative Lippert, and with that, I can take your questions.
Representative Hansen.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. On the information provided here, we see some numbers relative to a fiscal note. And I'm also seeing in the bill, though, that we have an open appropriation. So where do we anticipate that those dollars might be coming from to either the bill offer or?
Mr. Chair, Representative Heinzman, those would be from the general fund.
Representative Wagenius.
Thank you for the witness. I'm looking at the collecting new water quality information on 1.12. The Pollution Control Agency is getting ready to look at the karst region of the state. And apparently they're only going to look for nitrogen, which when we find nitrogen, we find pesticides. The Department of Ag's own data shows that. So I don't see how what PCA and this, how they're coordinated. I'm just trying to sort that out.
Mr. Chair, Representative Wagenius, this bill really focuses on first identifying the most vulnerable superficial aquifers that supply waters to wells. In those agricultural areas, the Department of Agriculture has that authority. In this special circumstance in the southeast, I believe that's a program that's being developed by the PCA. But in general, they work well together. Nitrogen is certainly not the only chemical or compound that we need to be concerned about, but it is really a first indicator. And so when we look at groundwater quality and look at nitrate concentrations, it is an inexpensive and relatively easy way to look at water as that have an indication of being contaminated by other compounds.
Representative Wagenius.
If I could follow up. So we have data from the Department of Ag, and they don't check all over the state. They do check areas that they think are vulnerable. So is this designed to go beyond that into different areas? Is that what I'm hearing?
Mr. Chair, Representative Wagenius, this supplements the program and tunes the program that is underway by the Department of Agriculture to look and define the most sensitive areas and then look for ways to use best management practice to reduce, to increase the quality of the waters in those very shallow aquifers. So it supplements and it fits together with the work that's underway now by the Department of Agriculture.
Representative Wagenius.
So you find wells that are over 10 parts of nitrogen. I mean, if you look hard, you are going to find them. What do you offer to the residents who have wells with over 10 parts of nitrogen?
Mr. Chair, Representative Wagenius, a couple of things. First, an identification of the problem. So in many areas, in many cases, those high levels of nitrate are not associated with the aquifer itself, but with problems around individual wells. So the identification of the source of the problem, is it the well or is it the aquifer? Then if it's the aquifer, then you really need to look at changes in land use and incentives to provide changes in land use. Green cover crops are an example that would reduce the leakage of nitrate into those shallow systems. So it depends on the source of the problem associated with an individual well. But you really do have to identify that problem first.
One more?
Representative McGuinness.
Okay, so my constituents drink rivers, river water, and you're looking at river water. That's 25% of Minnesotans, but all of we have here is 2 pilot monitoring sites. How are you going to choose those pilot monitoring sites? I mean, there are 25 systems that use river water for drinking water.
Mr. Chair, Representative Agenius, that is a good question. We have to start somewhere. This is a pilot, and this, as opposed to looking at a whole suite of chemicals and contaminants in water in the rivers, this is really focused at looking at things like spills that would occur. Short period of time would have to be identified quickly. The water utilities notified, and then with a process to have them alleviate that problem. So this is a pilot program. We hope it's successful. The technology for real-time monitoring of a number of contaminants and chemicals has improved greatly in the past. So we can now instrument in-stream gauges that exist on the river, additional equipment that could be used as early warnings. So this is a pilot.
Okay, if I could just one.
Representative McGuinness.
So I'm understanding this is just meant for spills in these 25 drinking water systems. They could get into them.
Mr. Chair, Representative, that would be the primary function of these implementation sites on the rivers, to look for things that affect drinking water supply that could result in them having to be shut down over a short period of time.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I ask
McGuinness.
these questions because that's a very different, when you're looking at spills that will shut down a system, is very different than the language we adopted here to actually do check the river systems that are used for drinking water for contaminants for drinking water. So it's very different if you're looking just at big spills issues. Thank you.
Representative Purcell and then Representative Fabian.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And to Representative Lippert, or testifier, does work under this bill anticipate or preclude water quality work in what we know as the Pineland Sands aquifer area in northwest Minnesota?
Mr. Stark.
Mr. Chair, Representative Purcell, it would fit nicely with, I'm very familiar with the Pineland Sands. Conditions there are they're very susceptible. Those aquifers are vulnerable. Many of them are affected now by agricultural practices. So this would be one of the areas where this process would fit well and would be of benefit.
Representative Purcell.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and I thank you for that. And hopefully there'll be some coordination with the DNR. They've committed to looking into this as well in the Pineland Sands. So thank you.
Representative Fabian.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. To the author of the bill, we have the fiscal note that Representative Heinzman talked about, and in the bill as it's presented to the committee, there's no numbers put in there, and the fund coming from is left blank as well. I'm curious to know why you don't have an amendment so that we can actually see it in the bill to plug those things into this bill.
Mr. Chair, Representative, that did not get prepared in time, Representative.
Okay, so, Mr. Chair, remind me of the motion, just to go back to Ways and Means and then re-referred to,
Health and Human Services.
okay, and
Maybe they have some more money.
maybe. So if I can continue.
Representative Fabian.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So this bill obviously impacts a lot of different agencies. On the second page of the bill on line 2.9, for example, natural resources, pollution control, and all other agencies must cooperate with the Department of Health in implementing this act as applicable. So what other agencies do you see other than those listed here as agencies that are going to be impacted by this bill?
Mr. Stark.
Mr. Chair, Representative Fabian, thank you for the question. The primary agencies involved in this would be the Department of Health and Agriculture with the Pollution Control Agency. But obviously, these programs touch work that is done by the other natural resources agencies in the state. So they all would have some input. For example, the Department of Natural Resources may have observation rules that can be used for some of this sampling. So they fit together and all would contribute to this effort. But the three agencies would be the primary leads on this work.
Representative Fabian.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And to the author of the bill, then, what other committee stops do you foresee for this bill before it becomes a part of an omnibus bill or goes to the House floor?
Mr. Chair, Representative, I believe Health and Human Services, Health and Human Service Finance is next. And beyond that, I'm not certain, but.
Representative Fabian.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So I would recommend probably going to agriculture as well, but I'm interested in hearing kind of a response to the bill from the Department of Natural Resources and the Pollution Control Agency if they're here.
Are they here? Is there someone from PCA? Looks like Mr. Kudelka is coming, or maybe he's just walking down the aisle there. DNR on deck. Mr. Kudelka, did you hear the question?
Mr. Chair and committee members, for the record, my name is Kirk Kudelka. I'm Assistant Commissioner with the Minnesota Pollution Control Agency. At this time, I don't think we have anything to add. We've been just following along with the bill, and as we would work with the author and see what activities they would have for the Minnesota Pollution Control Agency, and we would go from there. At this point, we don't have a specific plan on what we would be involved in.
Representative Fabian.
Well, thank you. So then when, Mr. Chair, thank you. When you do have a specific plan, are you going to come back to this committee so that we can hear what your specific plan is?
Mr. Kudelka.
Mr. Chair and committee members, we will work with the author to learn more on how we would be involved and work with our partners at the Department of Health and other agencies to determine what that is. The path of the bill will be up to the legislature, and we'll be happy to share with folks as we continue to see if the bill progresses.
Representative Fabian.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So then just as a matter of public record, at this point, you don't have a position on the bill, you support it, you don't support it?
Mr. Kudelka.
Mr. Chair and committee members, you are correct. We don't have a position at the bill at this time.
Thank you.
I see Commissioner Myers here. Eager to testify.
Eager.
Mr. Chairman, members, for the record, Bob Meyer, Department of Natural Resources. Thank you for the opportunity to testify on this bill. We have been working with the Water Commission on this issue. We do a lot of other activities to protect wellhead protection. Actually, there's been some LSOHC funding in areas of the state to provide groundwater or ground cover protection in the form of wildlife management areas and things like that around some of these sensitive areas. And we also work closely with our forestry program to make sure that these areas are protected as we manage our forests. So while this is not within the governor's budget, we have been working with the Water Commission and do believe that there is an issue here that needs to protect our groundwater sources, our drinking water sources.
Representative Fabian.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So to the fiscal note of, what is it, 1.9 roughly? I mean, what are we doing with this bill that you're not already doing? And what is the state already doing that's not covered by this bill, Representative Lippert?
Jim Stark may be better positioned to answer that question.
Mr. Stark.
If there's someone from the health department here, might be able to respond to that.
Yeah. Welcome.
Mr. Chair, Chris Alverum with the Minnesota Department of Health. Yeah, the fiscal note on this one really does a couple of things. It establishes these 2 real-time monitoring stations, so there's a lot of upfront equipment costs and, to implement that and get the cities set up so that they can read the information. It also provides resources for the first year and a half to collaborate with the sister agencies, and I think while we work with them closely on all these topics all the time, and the collaboration is not a problem. This is something that we do regularly on these types of projects. But they haven't been in the loop, so that's why they couldn't really answer your questions. But the rest of the funds go toward private well testing, and we sort of, had to make some assumptions, and, so we have resources in there to do quite a bit of testing over the course of the next several years, and exactly how we do it and where we do it is going to be sort of designed with the input from the other agencies. And I'm not sure if that all answers all the questions, but I'll be happy to.
Representative Fabian.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Well, I don't know that it does answer a lot of the questions.
Okay.
But maybe as well as you can, but I guess my point is to up until now, coming to committee, you've got these different things going on with different agencies, and you don't have answers for the committee. I got some real reservations about doing this because of all of the unanswered questions. And I'm hearing from some agencies that they don't have a position on the bill. It's not a part of the governor's recommendations. Is this something that the Department of Health is advocating for on behalf of Governor Walz?
Mr. Chair and committee members, as the other testifier said, it's not part of the governor's budget, and we recognize that we can do more to protect our drinking water, and these are good steps. But we're neutral on the bill just simply because it isn't part of the governor's budget and hasn't been vetted through that process. And it would supplement the things that we are doing. So, there are those real-time monitoring stations don't exist anywhere else in legislation, or resources aren't available. So that would be something completely only in this bill. And the other parts of it are really adding on more private well testing.
Thank you.
Any other questions for any of the testifiers? Is there anyone else in the audience who would like to speak for or against the bill? Anyone else in the audience? Representative Lippert, any closing remarks?
Just want to thank the committee for this discussion. I think our drinking water is critically important, and it seems clear to me that we have a gap when we have many million residents in our state who are getting their drinking water from private wells and or groundwater sources. And so we need to be ensuring that that's safe, and this bill is a step towards ensuring that, so I urge support of the bill.
I will renew my motion that House File 1314 be recommended to be re-referred to the Ways and Means Committee with a recommended re-referral to the Health and Human Services Finance Division. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed?
Nay.
Ayes have it. Motion is adopted. Members, we're going to skip around a bit here. Representative Ecklund, are you ready to present? 2505. So we will be taking up House File 2505, the forest industry inventory data quality. Representative Ecklund, you want to move 2032 to get it before the committee to be laid over later?
2505, Mr. Chair?
2505. Yes.
That's correct. I'd like to move to lay that over for possible inclusion in the omnibus finance bill, Mr. Chair.
Representative Ecklund, please present your bill.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Members, House File 2505 asks for $1.5 million for each year of the biennium. The forest products industry is an important part of northern Minnesota's economy. And with me to testify today on the merits of 2505, House File 2505 is Ray Higgins from the Minnesota Forest Industry and the Timber Producers Association.
Mr. Higgins, welcome.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. My name is Ray Higgins. I work for Minnesota Forest Industries and Minnesota Timber Producers Association. Minnesota Forest Industries represents paper mills, producers of engineered wood products, sawmills, forest land owners, and producers of renewable energy from forest biomass. Minnesota Timber Producers Association represents loggers, truckers, smaller sawmills, and allied businesses. I work with Wayne Brandt, which I know many of you know. He sends his regrets for not being able to be here with you today. So thank you for the opportunity to share some thoughts on this legislation. The DNR currently has a 23-year cycle for doing its inventory, its forest inventory. This provision would bring this down to 15 years, which is a big improvement. We would prefer like a 10-year cycle, but 15 years is a good start. Currently, 25% of the time when a DNR forester goes out to check on a stand, he or she finds that it's not the species or not in the configuration that is listed in the inventory. So it may have blown down in the meantime, it may have been impacted by disease or other factors. And while it's never a waste of time for foresters to spend time in the woods, it's very inefficient. In addition, the sustainable forest or the sustainable timber harvest analysis that was completed last year showed some of the deficiencies of the DNR's stand level forest inventory. Good information leads to good decisions, and better information leads to better decisions. And we feel this will give DNR better information for doing their work. So we support this legislation and appreciate the opportunity to share our thoughts with you.
Any questions for Representative Ecklund or the testifier? Is there anyone in the audience who would like, Representative Sundin?
Thank you. I understand we're going to commit $3 million to counting trees, which provides that information critical for the industry. What's our return as far as selling stumpage to the loggers and the forest industry, the paper producers, whoever?
Representative Ecklund.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Representative Sundin. So back a few years ago when I was on the county board, we went through the same type thing. And what we're finding is in a lot of our forest inventories across the state, we don't have the accurate information we have. So I believe by committing this and getting better accurate information, we'll be able to put up better timber sales for the loggers and get a better return on investment from our state lands.
Representative Sundin.
Can you tell me, or anyone tell me, how much revenue is generated from sales of public forests?
I'm going to have to phone a friend on that, Representative Sundin. Mr. Chair, Representative Sundin.
I think he's ready. Mr. Bolt.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chair, committee members. For the record, my name is Forrest Bowe, Director of Forestry with Minnesota DNR. To the question, I believe we sell about $20 million worth of timber annually to loggers and ultimately go to Minnesota mills.
Thank you.
Representative Claflin.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Another service provided by our forests is the sequestration of carbon. It's a way that we can address climate change here in Minnesota. And I would like to hear about how this data can help us estimate how much carbon is being stored in our forests.
Mr. Bowe.
Mr. Chair, Representative Claflin, I may have to phone a friend on that carbon question. We've had some carbon questions in the committee before, and as you know, some of those are a little bit difficult to answer. I will say, and I wanted to testify on the bill anyway, I will say that forest inventory is really the primary data set that we use to manage all of our DNR forest lands. We use it in things like the most recent sustainable timber harvest analysis. We use it for wildlife habitat modeling, for ecosystem and watershed analysis. And certainly, it's very useful for carbon sequestration modeling as well. It's really critical in projecting our timber harvest volumes and monitoring our forests over the long time. And it's important that we keep the inventory up to date so that we can make very important and current conditions about our forest management decisions. As mentioned before, DNR currently inventories about 120,000 acres a year. So we have 2.75 million acres of commercial forest land that we manage. And if you do the math, it's about a 23-year inventory cycle. So foresters are not back to that particular stand for 23 years. And a lot happens in that 23 years. And we need to do a better job of looking after the forest and being able to model all of those things. And as stated, I think this does reduce our inventory cycle to about 15 years, which is a little bit more of the industry standard. With regard to carbon sequestration, because of better data on the exact number of trees and size of trees that we have on all these forest stands, we are able to calculate a better number for how much carbon we have now and how much carbon then we would have, you know, as we continue to do an inventory. I would also suggest or let you know that carbon sequestration for forests is 70% of it is tied up in the soil, and which is huge. It's about, you know, constantly keeping our forest lands forested so that we retain that carbon on the landscape.
Thank you. Good data, it is a key to having good models. Thank you.
Representative Fabian, and then Representative Heinzman.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So, Director Bowe, with the information that's gathered here, the sustainable timber harvest analysis that was done last year, and then the resulting, I'll say quotas, amounts of timber to be harvested, really wasn't very satisfying, I'll say, to the timber industry and many of us. Is there a possibility that this analysis that you're going to be doing, collection of data, would change the timber harvest analysis that was done and free up more cords per year?
Mr. Bowe.
Mr. Chair, Representative Fabian, I would say that our sustainable timber harvest analysis is what we have in place for the next 10 years. If we start to collect better inventory even today, it will take a while for us to get up to speed with better overall inventory. But I think certainly our desire is to have that better inventory, and that will overall improve our forest growth and yield models. Growth and yield models are critical for coming up with a harvest plan and how much is harvestable, how much is sustainable. So ultimately, yes, it could change our sustainable timber harvest in the future.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So,
Representative Fabian.
help me understand, what is this bill going to do relative to what you're doing now? Is it just going to provide more money to more people, more what? Help me understand where we're going, because you're already doing this within the agency. And how much, well, two questions. What are you going to do different, or in addition to, and how much money are you currently spending on doing these analyses?
Mr. Bowe.
Analysis is this? Is that a word, analysis?
Analyses.
Analyses. Okay.
Mr. Chair, Representative Fabian, we currently spend about $1.4 million on inventory efforts. This essentially kind of would double that. We'd go from collecting data on forest stands every 23 years down to 15 years. It also says technology, and currently we have our staff fill out a green sheet, green piece of paper. They come back to the office, they enter it in the computer. This allows us to do data collection on a recorder, an electronic device, come back in, plug that into your computer, and you're good to go. So it enhances the efficiency of our staff. It creates a much quicker inventory cycle so that we have better information and faster, so that we're more up to date and we can make better forest management decisions.
Representative Fabian.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And Director Bowe, you and I have talked about this before too. When you talk about technology, boots on the ground is one thing, but with regards to satellite imagery and drones and infrared and all that sort of stuff, what steps are you taking now in terms of your forest inventory where we can use even more elaborate forms of technology, particularly drones and satellite imaging.
Mr. Bowe.
Mr. Chair, Representative Fabian, you may recall that we got a LCCMR grant a couple years ago, and we've been testing LiDAR and using drones and working with various entities to do that work. This really provides the on-the-ground, I would call boots on the ground, so that when you have that technology and those LiDAR flights are in place, now you know what you have on the ground, and you can see what that signal is from the LiDAR compared to what we know is on the ground, so that when we see that signal, that same signal on the next county over, we know exactly what that forest inventory is. So in the long run, we're really being prepared for increasing our accuracy, increasing our efficiency, and ultimately maybe really using more and more technology and less need for actual boots on the ground.
Thank you. Representative Heinzman.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I like that we're making an investment, Representative Ecklund, in our forests. And a question came up actually a few minutes ago that got me thinking a little bit. And Director Bowe, you may have something right there available now, but I'm assuming that you might be able to dig up something relative to Representative Claflin's question about carbon. My mind was tracking a little bit different, though, in terms of a rotting forest and the impact that a rotting forest has in an environmental context. If you do have anything along those lines, and you could maybe shoot something out to the committee, that would be great if you have something now, but either way.
Mr. Bowe.
Mr. Chair, I'd be happy to provide that to the committee.
Any other questions? Representative Luke.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I guess, Director Bowe, I'm kind of curious, do you, at this point, collect data on, I guess, and this is from the commercial foresters world, a site index as to what types of trees will prosper on a particular piece of ground and others won't? Is that part of this collection process? It's one thing to count the trees, but obviously some grows better in certain soils than others.
Mr. Chair, Representative Luick, that's actually a little bit different process. We have an ecological classification system with a few folks that are dedicated to that. Those folks, and many times work hand in hand with the folks actually doing the tree level data. Sometimes that data or the collection of the ecological classification system is a little bit on a broader scale, but clearly they're looking at all the plants. When they're doing that, they're looking at the soil conditions and really coming up with prescriptions on a broad basis for what is going to grow there the best. And so again, using that information, so when we have to replant the next forest, we're not planting something there that doesn't want to grow there.
If I could, Mr. Chair, follow up. And part of the reason I asked that is I've own a wide variety of property, I'll put it that way. I've got some areas where red pine just grows like weeds, and other places that they won't, the white pine too. And but this business is 20-some years plus before you're able to go back out. For something like aspen with a really good site index where you really got some ideal conditions, what's that first probable harvest window at? How many years is that at?
Mr. Chair, Representative Luick, our rotation age for aspen is set at 40 years. Sometimes because of the size and like you said, that site index, we're able to go in there at maybe even 35. Other sites are much poorer. The trees don't grow as fast, and you're waiting till 50, 60 years to have a commercial harvest.
Representative Luke.
And the reason I bring that up is and again, I know they're talking in general averages about the ability to get out and look at so many acres, but you know, if you're looking at maybe harvesting as early as 35 years, If you're out there looking at it real hard the first time at 23, you might get some ugly surprises. And, you know, in that forestry business, the sooner you know there's an issue out there, the better. So that's where this business of being able to look at a much more frequent basis and get that data down hard, it absolutely makes sense. It's kind of like, if you don't look at your cattle for a couple of years, when you go out there, they may not be there.
Is there anyone in the audience who'd like to testify for or against the bill? Anyone in the audience? Representative Ecklund, any closing remarks?
Well, thank you, Mr. Chair. And this is a bill, I think, that provides better data to the DNR in the long run and will make our forest products industry healthier and more prosperous.
Representative Ecklund renews his motion that House File 2505 be laid over for possible inclusion in the omnibus bill. The bill is laid over. Members, the next bill we're going to take is House File 1403, Representative Lee's trade and animal parts, and then we will go to Representative Fischer's 1624, and then we will go to House File 2032. Representative Lee, do you move House File 1403 be laid over for possible inclusion?
That is my motion, Mr. Chair.
Representative Lee, please present your bill.
Thank you, Mr. Chair and members, for the opportunity to present House File 1403. This is a bill to prohibit the trade of ivory and rhino horn in Minnesota. The issues of rhino horn and ivory trade are not confined to Africa and Asia, but are a huge global problem. The U.S. is one of the biggest markets for illegal ivory. The U.S. Fish and Wildlife Services estimate that between 2010 and 2015, more than 1,000 shipments of ivory, more than 12,000 items, came through Chicago's port. Although many of the items were refused entry, about 2,500 were allowed to pass through the ports. Federal regulations in 2016 instituted a near total ban on the commercial trade of African elephant ivory, including trade between states. But the federal law does not address what goes on within states, which has led 9 states to enact laws restricting or banning the sale of ivory and rhino horn within the borders. The other states with similar laws are Illinois, California, Hawaii, Nevada, New Hampshire, New Jersey, New York, Oregon, and Washington. This bill bans the trade of ivory and rhinoceros horn in Minnesota. It restricts trade of most ivory and rhino horn products with exemptions for bona fide antiques, with a small amount of ivory and musical instruments. This bill will not criminalize possession of ivory and rhino horn, including cultural artifacts currently owned by Minnesota residents, nor prohibit inheritance. The bill also establishes outreach and education to communities concerned with cultural outreach artifacts.
And Representative Lee, do you have a testifier?
I do have a testifier.
Thank you. Good afternoon, Chair and committee members. My name is Christine Coughlin, and I'm with the Humane Society of the United States. And my gratitude to Representative Lee, the other co-authors on this bill, and to committee members with whom I've had an opportunity to speak. We encourage your support for House File 1403. Poachers kill an African elephant on average every 20 minutes. This means about 5 elephants will have been killed for their ivory by the time this committee meeting is over. In the 19th century, Africa boasted an estimated 12 million elephants. Today, that population has been reduced 97%. The Great Elephant Census, conducted 2007 to 2014 by a consortium of researchers, concluded that poachers are killing elephants faster than they can reproduce. All 5 existing rhino species are threatened with extinction. There's a growing movement worldwide to close markets to ivory and rhino horn in order to stem the global poaching crisis facing these animals. The U.S. has a near total federal ban on trade in ivory, affecting import, export, and interstate sales. But federal regulations cannot and do not regulate intrastate trade, and Minnesota law does not presently prohibit intrastate trade of ivory and rhino horn. This bill largely mirrors the federal law and will close the existing loophole in Minnesota and make sure Minnesota is not contributing to the global poaching crisis facing elephants and rhinos. Experts on the ground in range countries tell us that anti-poaching efforts are important, but they are only half the equation. Stemming the demand and the trade in ivory and rhino horn is the other half. The federal government has taken important steps, and other states around the country are adopting restrictions mirroring the federal regulations. Minnesota should not be absent in this important act of conservation that may spell the difference between a future with elephants and rhinos and a future without them. So thank you again, and encourage your support for House File 1403.
Any questions? Representative Heinzman.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So Representative Lee, we had a spirited discussion in the other committee. The discussion centered around some concerns related to, I think Representative Lewick actually brought it up, and a connection to ivory that might be collected legally in Alaska. I think we discussed a Norway and other examples of ivory that we're not talking about specifically in the bill today, but will be affected by this particular language. Has there been any discussion how to work on that problem? And if so, is that moving forward?
Representative Lee.
Mr. Chair and Representative Heitzman, after the discussion from the Environment Policy Committee, I have not had anyone approach me around that particular issue. And if we were to address that issue, my doors were open for members to come by, and we haven't had that discussion ever since.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Follow-up?
Representative Heitzman.
Thank you. I'm hoping, I guess that's part of the reason I'm bringing it up now, is that, are you saying that you'd be willing to take an amendment that would resolve that concern relative to our friends in Alaska and those communities there? I guess I'm trying to get a better idea where you're at on the bill, and if that would be an option.
Representative Lee.
Mr. Chair, with regards to that, like we have had discussion in the previous committee, is that, this bill is very tailored to Minnesota, and if they were able to sell, the ivory products that you are considering in Alaska, this bill will not impact that. And this bill will be, directly about the state of Minnesota.
Representative Heitzman.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Well, I'm going to continue then, I guess, to point out this is definitely a concern, and I hope that folks realize that this bill could have some pretty significant impacts, maybe intended, maybe not. I guess I'm not sure. But, the discussion as you're presenting the bill is very specific relative to trade of ivory from Africa, and it hasn't really been brought up except by folks asking questions. And I really hope that we can fix this. Otherwise, I think we've got some pretty significant issues. We should be very sensitive to how it may impact people in Alaska and those communities there. So, until that issue is resolved, I can't support the bill. And I had co-authored, and until that is changed, I've removed my name from the bill, which really it was a disappointment because I wanted to support this. I think that the underlying issue that you're trying to work on is a good one, but this other impact is pretty negative.
Representative Becker-Finn.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And was going to add, if you look at line 2.6 on the bill, there's exceptions to what this bill would prohibit. And so line 2.6 is that there's an exception for anything that's expressly authorized by federal law. So I think in the discussion of whether or not Representative Lee would or should amend the bill, it's not necessary to. I think the concerns that folks have are already addressed with the exception because federal law already allows Native Alaskans to sell their art if that's what they choose to do. And so while I appreciate the attention to Native artists in Alaska, I just don't think it's already covered. It's already protected because of the current federal law on this issue. I believe it was Senator Murkowski and some of the Alaskan folks had been advocating for their constituents, and there are exceptions for that already in federal law. So I think it's a good bill as is. I think it is really well thought out as far as, it only would, the bill overall would only apply to sell or sale, so it doesn't include gifts or bequests or donations. And then I just encourage folks to look at the exceptions, before kind of jumping the gun and getting overly worried about the need to amend the bill.
Representative Hansen.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. To that point, I will remind members that there was a very specific discussion that centered around the ability of a Native Alaskan to sell to a third party, and that isn't resolved in the exceptions. As we went through point by point, there never was a clarification that we were able to establish as excluding those third parties. Now, if somebody was going to make the trip all the way from Alaska to come and sell to a first party in a transaction, okay, that I understand that. That is in the federal guidelines that Representative Becker-Finn is, I think, alluding to. But if that Alaskan was to sell to a third party for public sale, a wholesaler, that question wasn't answered, and that's the concern that I'm raising today.
Representative Becker-Finn.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And I had the site in front of me the last time we had this discussion. I will Google it again. But again, I think, I don't know if Representative Heisman or others have done any research in the meantime to actually point to where that is in the statute. I don't know if House Research has that at their fingertips or not. I know it was through it was a Fish and Wildlife Service federal website, but I'm happy to look that up for folks and send it out to the committee. But I really don't think that it's included in the exception because it's authorized by federal law. So thank you.
To the author of the bill or to the testifier?
Thank you. Yes, as has been stated, this bill does have an exemption for activity that is expressly authorized by federal law, and we see that in the bill language. Federal law generally prohibits the killing and importing of marine mammals, such as narwhals, whales, and walruses under the Marine Mammal Protection Act. However, there is a very specific exemption applying to Alaskan natives who reside in Alaska along the North Pacific or Arctic coast for either subsistence purposes or for purposes of creating and selling authentic native articles of handicraft and clothing using traditional methods. So this is expressly authorized in federal law and would not be impacted by the bill. If the sale is authorized by federal law, again, it would not be impacted by the bill. There was a statement by the DNR last time indicating in terms of the intrastate sale from Minnesotan to Minnesotan, that is an area that if it does not meet that federal threshold for being expressly authorized and it does not meet the other exemptions as outlined in the bill, yes, would be impacted. The idea and the reason behind including this variety of ivories is because they are virtually indistinguishable. They're chemically the same. They're actually made of the same materials. In illegal shipments that have been seized, these items are frequently commingled together. The idea is you're preventing potential illegal elephant ivory from being sold under the guise of these other species, and that's the intent behind it. Again, we're really looking at the decimation, potential decimation of species, extinction of species because of the poaching pressures that are put on them and the ability for this ivory. And the federal government has said they believe substantial amounts of illegal ivory continue to be imported into the United States. And this trade, the legal trade, serves as a cover for that illegal trade. So that's really the broader scope and intent behind the bill.
Representative Lewick.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I guess as I looked at this, one of the things that I discovered is that we've obviously shouldn't be dealing with elephant tusks or rhino horns in the United States, or at least on the North American continent, but there are other regions of the world that, in fact, your agency and others point to as the real problem particularly for the issue with rhinos and the elephants on both the Alaskan or the African and Indian continents. So, and I'm with you on that. That makes sense. But let's make sure we understand that the big offender here is not the United States or the citizens of the United States. It's a whole nother region of the world that has, in some cases, been named as just literally responsible for destruction of rhinos across the world. But the question I really got here, and this is for the author, maybe the chair, is there some reason, since we're really talking about commerce, I mean, it just jumps right out at you, we're talking about commerce here. Is this bill going to go to the commerce bill? Because we've got a lot of speculation on what's okay to trade and buy and sell, but it seems like that might theoretically be a little bit over this committee's head.
Representative Lewick, it's going to be laid, the motion is to lay it over for possible inclusion. There's been no request to have it sent to Commerce.
I guess, Mr. Chair, and to the author, I think in fairness, to make sure this thing is really wrung out properly, it would seem like it should go to Commerce. But again, obviously there's a prerogative between the author and the chairs involved there. But I mean, it's pretty basic commerce stuff here.
Is there anyone in the audience who'd like to testify for or against the bill? Anyone in the audience? Representative Lee, any closing remarks?
I have.
Oh, Representative Backer.
Yeah, I just had one question. Thank you, Chair. First, I'll comment. I would have to agree with the representative about going to Commerce. But my question here is for the author. Have you been in touch with the DNR on, do they have the capacity to do this type of outreach and education? And if they do, who would handle this in the DNR?
Representative Lee.
Mr. Chair, I have not directly contacted the DNR about the outreach piece, but I have been in communications with my testifier here, and they have said that they do have the capacity to work with the DNR and to take on this.
Representative Fabian.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Can we hear from DNR?
For the record, Colonel Rodman Smith, Director of Enforcement, Department of Natural Resources. Mr. Chair, members, we did put together a fiscal note regarding the outreach, and I don't know if that's in your packets or not. So we kind of looked at this, I guess, as maybe a good analogy this time of year is spring break. We could either go with the coach plan or upgrade to Comfort Plus or First Class, and we kind of went with the coach version of it, and obviously it can get scaled back to standby if need be. But we did cost it out, trying to look at about 300 hours of communication, professional time, some professional media development. Really, the expenses are in that first year, and then after that, it's real negligible, about $4,000 a year after that. So, you know, a lot of this outreach is going to be targeted fairly specific. And so we feel like we have the capacity to do it, and this will be something that this fiscal note was worked with through the Division of Enforcement and our non-game program at DNR.
Representative Fabian.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So just real quickly, and I've got the handout from the Humane Society people, I think it is. How big of a problem is, Colonel, how big of a problem is this in Minnesota?
Mr. Smith.
Mr. Chair, Representative Fabian, we don't, the department traditionally hasn't investigated these because they have been federal crimes until this bill, if this bill gets passed. We have assisted with the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service on some search warrants here in Minnesota. There was a couple of them. One that comes to mind was a professor out of St. Cloud State University, and was a rather large a collection of ivory that was confiscated and seized and forfeited from that individual. I don't necessarily think it's going to be a big workload. What we will do to have a better understanding of it is we will create a time code for it. We'll use general fund dollars if we do use this, and then we'll track our time and see in a year or two or a couple years if this becomes more of a workload than what we anticipate it being, but we don't really anticipate it being that big of a workload for us.
Representative Fabian.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And just to be clear, this was not a part of the governor's budget proposal, was it?
Mr. Chair, Representative Fabian, it was not.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Representative Lee renews his motion that House File 1403 be laid over for possible inclusion in the omnibus bill. The bill is laid over. Thank you. Representative Fischer. Representative Fischer moves that House File 1624 be laid over for possible inclusion in an omnibus bill.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Committee. This is a bill that basically would provide some ongoing funding for our soil and water conservation districts. These are elected representatives at the very local level that take care of dealing with basic boots on the ground for water quality and soil health issues. Over the years, this amount that is needed for them to do the work appropriately has not been funded on a regular ongoing basis, and so this bill is trying to address that problem. I have several people testifying here today with me, and I'd like to turn it over to them for them to share their experiences with you. Mr. Chair, if we may.
Yep, Ms. Korvick.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chair and committee members. I am Holly Kavorik, the district manager of the Pope Soil and Water Conservation District. I've been working in this field for 16 years. I want to thank you for your time and consideration this afternoon on behalf of the 88 Minnesota Soil and Water Conservation Districts in the state. I'm here to speak to you in support of House File 1624 for Soil and Water Conservation District funding. So as was mentioned, we have a board of 5 supervisors that oversee the operations of the soil and water conservation districts. In Pope, we are located in west central Minnesota. We're predominantly agriculture, but we also serve a variety of landowners. The board of elected supervisors has a variety of background and experience. We have a farmer, or actually multiple farmers, a carpenter, chiropractors, and they have a wealth of knowledge about the local landscape. We have 4 full-time trained staff that work on a variety of programs. Each SWCD across the state will vary depending on the natural resource concerns that they have in their communities. We work on a daily basis primarily with landowners, private landowners, on a voluntary incentive-based conservation practices aimed at healthy soil and clean water. And we cooperate with local government as well as state and federal agencies with the work that we conduct. As I began preparing for the presentation today, I thought about how I might characterize the importance of the natural resources work that SWCDs do. It made me think about the 1930s and kind of where soil and water conservation districts began. The day-to-day operations of soil and water districts working field by field, parcel by parcel, create a network of conservation practices that will help when and if events happen. These practices improve soil health, water quality, quantity, and protect habitat as examples. We identify local resource priorities. We put together plans on how to address them in a targeted fashion and then assess how we're doing and where more attention needs to be placed. However, we are often hindered from fully implementing our own plans because of operational funding constraints. These pictures I am showing you are examples of natural resource concerns SWCDs work with landowners on a daily basis. These are pictures of actual places in west central Minnesota and the day-to-day field work, parcel by parcel, field by field, both urban and rural landscapes that soil and water districts are addressing. These are not office jobs. They are also the boots on the ground, as we have been described as. We are out on the land visiting each of these sites to understand the resource issues and landscape. Each site is unique. Each SWCD staff person understands the land in their communities, is trained and able to assist landowners with conservation planning and implementation. 470 SWCD staff live, work, and recreate in their communities that they reside. This funding directly impacts 110 staff. It takes time to build trust of landowners to do this work, to plan and to implement the projects. Short-term funding is not predictable and uncertain, and staff turnover tends to be high because of this. Project timeframes are delayed if there is staff turnover. When we lose an employee due to budget shortfalls, our grant funding for a project has run out. We lose those relationships and have to start over. Building and rebuilding programs is inefficient. SWCDs work using a science-based water plan that informs our work. These plans identify the goals and objectives to address impaired waters and to protect those that are pristine. This is a series of projects that are prioritized in our local plan. They were targeted and were implemented around the Lake Minnewaska project area in Pope County. There are 23 projects implemented in this watershed with multiple landowners. This takes time and an investment in that local workforce. SWCDs are educators to all age groups. Education is important, and as land ownership changes, people who own the land need to understand their impacts to the landscape. Without stable funding, we are not able to do as much education and outreach. Some of the things that we work on: cover crops, wildlife habitat grazing and management, crop residue management, alternative tile intakes, shoreline restorations, buffers, native plantings, shoreline restorations, water conservation use, drinking water protection, rain gardens. Prior to fiscal year 16 and outside of competitive grants, the state's contribution to funding SWCD operations amounted to roughly $20,000 per district. Starting in fiscal year 16, that was increased with an infusion of $11 million per year in state clean water funds for building our capacity to implement programs and practices. The $11 million per year in state clean water funds, which we had proposed to be one time into the general fund, was the result of years of work on our part in articulating the need for additional state investment in soil and water districts and quantifying the need. In the last 4 years, with that investment, capacity funding has enabled districts to hire more than 110 employees across the state. The boots on the ground working one-on-one with ag producers, lakeshore owners, urban residents, and others on targeted priority resource concerns. It has allowed SWCDs to partner with landowners to design, install, and share the cost of conservation practices that have measurable water quality results. This graphic here is a breakdown of the Pope Soil and Water Conservation District financial breakdown. A lot of the state funding you see there is competitive based that we have to competitively apply for. And they are not a guarantee. 20% of the grants, the projects that are applied for across the state are actually funded. 80% of those go unfunded. That means a landowner in my county has to wait until we're able to attain the funding to do the project. Unlike other local government units, soil and water districts do not have a means of raising our own revenue. We rely on funding from counties, grants, state, federal sources. Nothing is predictable and varies. We appreciate the local investments that have been made to continue to do this work across the state, but in many cases, the local investments have been inadequate to hire and retain qualified staff. In 2017, the median amount for each SWC from county allocations was $90,000. Pope SWC's allocation, for example, is $62,000, which is less than that. So this bill is asking you to invest $14 million, half of the need annually, for the general fund appropriation to help maintain soil and water districts. Here's just another graphic of the economic impact of soil and water districts. It's about $68 million. In closing, there are 470 employees, as I mentioned. This is a graphic of 15 different producers. It takes about an average of 40 hours per landowner project in planning and to get the project implemented. That's 52 landowner projects completed annually per one full-time equivalent. If the funding to support these individuals does not come through, we will be losing 5,720 on-the-ground projects annually. So just, you can use the multiplier effect. This is 15 landowners here. So with that, thank you for listening. And I don't know if there's anybody else.
Any questions for the testifier? Representative Sundin.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And to the testifier, you mentioned retention is a problem with the employees of the Soil and Water conservation districts. I'm just wondering what the compensation package would be for those employees and just exactly why they're leaving. Do they have health insurance? Are they adequately compensated for the work that they do?
We typically, the range of wages for a local soil and water district in our district is around that 20 to 25 starting out. Ultimately, to retain long-term staff, which requires more funding to keep them in place, they typically end up going on somewhere else to work for the state or other agencies where they can pay better and have better health benefits.
Representative Sundin.
So evidently, the soil and water conservation districts, as far as their workforce goes, they're simply a training ground for the DNR or whoever else?
Ms. Kavar.
Mr. Chair and Representative Sundin, yes, that can sometimes happen. Our goal would be to retain those staff because they become that trusted advisor to the local landowner. It takes time to build that to get projects implemented on the ground. So we want to retain those staff locally to get the work done and be able to earn a decent wage and living in doing that.
Thank you.
Representative Fabian.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Representative Fischer, how are you going to divide up the $14 million per year to each of the 88 SWCDs? Do you have a spreadsheet?
Mr. Chair, Representative Fabian and I do not have a spreadsheet. This is something that the Bowser has been doing over the past. I would be expecting that they will be doing that using the protocols that they have done in the past. But if we have somebody from Bowser here, they could probably answer that question more accurately for you.
Ms. Becker-Kadelka.
Mr. Chair, members, Angie Becker-Kadelka, Board of Water and Soil Resources. Mr. Chair, Representative Fabian, to your question, the $11 million right now that the Board of Water and Soil Resources is passing through to local governments is at $100,000 per district per year. And that isn't quite the, I'm sorry, did I say 11,000? 11 million, thank you. The $11 million is $100,000 per district per year to help with that base capacity. That doesn't add up to 11 million, and so what we do with the rest is if the counties are willing to provide a match, it's used as an incentive to help out and have the counties contribute locally.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So Representative Fischer, is it your intention to continue then that practice of encouraging counties through some sort of change in your legislation so that there is a local match as well?
Mr. Chair, Representative Fabian, I was not imagining having anything required in here because it's already something that's being done. It's something that I could be open to, seeing this is something that's being laid over. That's something that I would be open to potentially.
Representative Fabian.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, because I do know that some counties are doing a fairly decent job of funding their SWCDs and others are not. And, you know, you have to ask the philosophical question is, are we, quote, bailing out SWCDs where the counties are not doing a good job, and then, you know, creating something for them that the other counties are working at and doing some good things, and almost creating an incentive for other counties to pull back on some of their funding.
Ms. Becker-Kadelka.
Mr. Chair and members, it's a really good question. And so in the need that has been calculated using about 6 different base districts to try to determine what does it really take for those essential needs, that overall need is it used to be 44 million. Now it's gone up, you know, with additional workload. And so this is only asking for half of what that need is for essential services. And so it's asking my understanding of this general fund appropriation, the 14 million is asking for half of what the ongoing need is.
Representative Fischer, I know you had some other testifiers. I'm asking if we could maybe just proceed to laying the bill over if
That would be fine. I understand we've got time commitments for other bills being heard today, so I would be fine with that, Mr. Chair.
Representative Lewick.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And one of the things that might be helpful is if the committee could get basically a thumbnail spreadsheet that showed the districts and the amount of money that Bowser sends down to them versus how much each individual county is putting in there, because there's quite a variation from county to county. And I'm afraid whether we send money down there this year, we're going to be back revisiting this. And that business of if the county does X, then there's a sweetener and there may be something we need to pursue a little further.
Representative Fischer renews his motion that House File 2505 be laid over for possible inclusion in an omnibus bill. The bill is laid over. Oh, 1624, excuse me.
That could be great, too.
Next up, we have House File 2032. Representative Hansen, would you like to move your bill?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I would move House File 2032 to be laid over for possible inclusion. And members, what we're going to do is, well, not laid over for possible inclusion, but just laid over until Thursday. So I'd like, and I know time is short, is to have the testifiers that are here. We will bring the bill back up on Thursday, so there would be amendments due tomorrow at 3 o'clock, right, Mr. Strohmeyer? So that's the intent, is we will not pass the bill out today, but we will just lay it over until Thursday, take amendments, and hopefully pass the bill out on Thursday afternoon. So I would go right to the testifiers, just because I know there are a few in the audience as well. Ms. Nash.
Welcome. Please introduce yourself for the record.
Thank you, Madam Chair. My name is Becca Nash. I'm the director of the LCCMR, the Legislative Citizen Commission on Minnesota Resources, and I appreciate the opportunity to be here today to present on House File 2032, which is the LCCMR's 2019 funding recommendations from the Environment and Natural Resources Trust Fund. I think in the interest of time, I'll skip the background and history. I know I was here before the committee earlier this session. This bill contains the recommendations from the LCCMR, which typically result from a multi-stage competitive process. We receive proposals from applicants all across the state of Minnesota in response to our annual request for proposal. LCCMR members review those proposals, they evaluate them, they hear presentations, they're able to ask questions of the proposers. Research projects undergo additional external scientific peer review. And then the top selected projects are put into bill form and must be approved by a supermajority of LCCMR members. The amount available for spending each year is written into the Constitution. It's up to 5.5% of the value of the fund on June 30th of the even years. The amount available for this fiscal year, fiscal 20, was $61 million. However, as a result of laws that were passed in 2018, approximately $7.84 million was appropriated for debt service to be paid out of the amount available. So we subtracted that amount from the $61 million, which resulted in $53.5 million available for the LCCMR to recommend and is representative of the bill that's before you today. There are several handouts in your packet. I just want to draw your attention to a couple of them. One contains a pie chart, and this is just a visual representation of how the recommendations match up with the subdivisions in the bill, which also correspond to LCCMR's priority areas. On the back side of this handout is a breakdown of the affiliation of the proposers. So this is to whom the money would go. And then at the bottom is a visual of the impact of these projects throughout the state. Also included in your packets should be a spreadsheet
multi-page spreadsheet, and this just lists the project by project with the amount in case it's easier for you to follow along that way. And unless there are any questions, Madam Chair, I would just go through the bill subdivision by subdivision and take questions as we go.
If there are other testifiers, we'd like to get them on the record today as well. Chair Hansen, do you have a preference?
If we could take testifiers, I think.
All right. Please introduce yourself for the record.
Chair and members, my name is Aaron Clems, and I'm the Director of Public Engagement at Minnesota Center for Environmental Advocacy. We're a nonprofit public advocacy and law firm that's defended Minnesota's environment using the law and science since 1974. And we'd like to commend the LCCMR for yet another year of really good work at identifying valuable projects that protect, conserve, preserve, and enhance Minnesota's natural resources and environment. The citizen-driven process has done a tremendous amount of good since voters approved the constitutional amendment in 1988, and we're really happy to support the vast majority of 2032. We're also very appreciative of the bipartisan efforts that a number of folks on this committee and elsewhere undertook to fix a significant error in the 2018 bonding bill. HF 80, one of the first bills passed this session and signed by the governor, reversed an unconstitutional allocation, in our view, from the Environment and Natural Resources Trust Fund that would have obligated over $8 million a year in debt service for appropriations bonds for 20 years. We're really grateful for the bipartisan work that went into fixing this and funding these projects to their normal and traditional sources of funding, which is general obligation bonding. That's why I regret to say that we must once again object to the inclusion of grants in HF 2032 that, in our view, commit the same errors and violate Minnesota's Constitution and Minnesota statutes. Particularly Section 2, Subdivision 11A, lines 25.13 to 25.30, provide $1.5 million funded through the Environment and Natural Resources Trust Fund, quote, for grants for wastewater treatment projects under the Water Infrastructure Funding Program. This appropriation for wastewater treatment suffers from the same legal infirmities as the wastewater treatment appropriations from the last session in the bonding bill. And for your consideration, I'd like to outline two constitutional issues that we have identified at this time. First, the appropriation for wastewater treatment violates the Constitution because the legislature would appropriate the money in the form of grants rather than loans. The amendment that established the Environment and Natural Resources Trust Fund states that, quote, loans may be made up to 5% of the principal of the fund for water system improvements as provided by law. And loans are different than grants. In HF 2032, municipalities would receive $1.5 million in the form of a grant that the municipalities do not need to return to the ENRTF. And for this reason, the $1.5 million grant in ENRTF funds for the wastewater treatment violates the Minnesota Constitution in our view. Second, the appropriation for wastewater treatment violates the Constitution because the authorizing statute for the ENRTF states that it, quote, may not be used as a substitute for traditional sources of funding environmental and natural resources activities, but the trust fund shall supplement the traditional sources. And here, the wastewater treatment grants in HF 2032 are infrastructure projects that have traditionally been funded by other means, such as general obligation bonds. Indeed, the legislature recently reaffirmed this traditional source of funding for these projects in HF 80, which passed and was signed by the governor. To be very clear, MCEA supports increased funding for wastewater treatment plants and the good work the Public Facilities Authority does. We've advocated strongly for these kinds of projects in the past in HF 80 and elsewhere, and continue to support additional funds to meet the nearly $5 billion in additional needed wastewater infrastructure spending over the next 20 years that the MPCA survey recently identified. But the magnitude of this need is the exact reason why the ENRTF statute limited the amount of money that could be loaned for that purpose, and why the statute also makes it clear that ENRTF funds may not be used as a substitute for traditional sources of funding, because the need is so great it would swallow the entire fund. Chairman Hansen and members of the committee, MCEA stands ready to work with you to meet the important need for wastewater infrastructure in a manner that's consistent with the Minnesota Constitution, existing statutes, and the will of Minnesota voters. I'm happy to work with anybody on this committee and toward that end, and I'm happy to answer any questions that you may have. Thank you for the opportunity to testify.
Thank you. Are there any other testifiers in the audience? Anyone wishing to testify for or against the bill? And are there any questions for either of our testifiers this afternoon? All right, seeing none. Representative Hansen, would you like to make any remarks?
Well, I would thank the committee. I'm sure we'll have a continued discussion with amendments on Thursday, and I would renew my motion that the bill be laid over.
Representative Hansen renews the motion that House File 2032 be laid over. See no other business at the moment. We will recess and reconvene at 5 o'clock in the basement hearing room. Right? Basement.